So which female hip hop artist was out when you came out with Ready or Not?
Ready or Not? Oh, by Ready or Not, gosh, there was, you had Salt and Pepper, obviously, Queen Latifah, Mommy Love. You had
That
MC
was
Light
93. So we're looking at 93.
ish, yeah. And you had like MC Light. You had Yo Yo, Lady of Rage. I
Yeah,
think
so yeah.
Boss.
So none of them
Um,
were everyone was sort of even like all tomboy, baggy jeans and bandanas, even yo-yo. So they weren't. I mean, it wasn't until Little Kim came out that all of a sudden female hip hop artists.
Foxy Brown.
Yeah,
Um,
they came out around the
I
same
was
time, but that was more the mid
yeah.
'90s, so not the early
It
'90s.
was getting a little bit further, but definitely yeah, I just always say that I came out, I was before my time, for sure. For sure. Like people ask now, like, can we get this album? Like, can we get it streamed? Can I'm like, y'all gotta have to talk to Tommy Boy about all of that. But
Yeah, because I listened to
yeah,
Wild
it
Thing
was
and
a
I'm
good
like,
album.
it's still. I mean, maybe because LL's and Trackmaster sampled it, that's why it still has this freshness. But it sounded very unique. But I don't know if people took understood the power of taking a chance on a unique record. But by the time you signed to Tommy Boy, did you get a lot more understanding about publishing points, recuperables, and stuff? Because through Flavor Unit, were they saying, "Okay, let's teach you what you need to know," because it's not a
So so yeah, by that time, um, there was a little bit more understanding, but there was still a lot more that I feel like I probably would not have signed, had I had a better understanding of things. But yeah, by that time you definitely got, you know, a little bit more of an understanding about points, publishing, masters, things like that. So, it wasn't always rainbows and unicorns up at Tommy Boy either. I I definitely had my office meetings with him.
So okay, I mean, so you've gone on to Tommy Boy and Flavor Unit. How did your whose idea was it to reinvent Wild Thing um, and passing
Chris
it to
Lighty.
Ella? Okay, so how did did he come to you first? Did he go to L first, or how did it that?
No, he was working with L with Rashad who produced it. And he was already in the studio. L was already in the studio. And Chris was, I don't know if he was like officially managing L, but he was definitely one of those liaisons where
Mm,
he was involved with a lot of stuff. And he was the one who hit me up. So he texted me and he was like, hey, we doing this, you know, want you to come down to the studio, work with my man L. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So he's like, I'm gonna send a car for you, which he did, and brought me to the studio. That was the first time I had met L in person. Like I had been in same areas with him, like shows behind, backstage, but we hadn't met.
mm.
And so that was the first time I officially met him. And so it was fun. We clicked. We sat down, we went over things, we played around with lyrics and the hook, which was the beginning of my song, which is doing it and doing it and doing it well. So we did all of that. And then by the time, I think it was probably like just the first day was sort of like meeting with each other, talking, going over some things. Okay, come back, go back into the studio, and now we're ready. And that first the track that you hear on the radio is the first take.
Wow.
Yeah. So when we did it that first time, it was so dope. Now that song you asked me about, Wild Thing, my song at that time, like I was really young, was like probably 88, whatever, or something.
Mhm.
And I didn't know. But when we did Doing It, the first take was fire. And we knew right then that it was a hit. Like we were all in the studio just like blown. So we knew it was a hit. And then we went back in to do, like to do it over, whatever. But Rashad never got rid of the first take.
First
He
take.
just kept it on a separate track. Yeah. And he never got rid of it. So we went back in and we kept trying to like, do it again. But it was the first one for
Wow.
everybody. Yeah. So what you hear is the first take. And
Wow.
then I just went back in and we did our ad libs obviously over it because those are all on separate tracks. So, he did all his stuff. I did all my moans and everything. And
But whose idea
um
was it to do all that, especially towards the end of the track?
probably L telling me to, do this because I had done it on my own song. So it was like,
Okay.
oh yeah, give us a little bit of, because I have done stuff with L since like in the last few years. Before the pandemic, I had done some things with him on Rock the Bell radio, and I
Mm.
did a lot of the commercials. And so L is always like, yeah, you know, throw that sexy on it. You know how you do it. So he always like that. And yeah, so it's probably him who told me to like turn it up a notch or whatever, something. And then it just, to me, it's just a switch. It's
Okay.
super easy because just like doing a Valley Girl voice, or you know, I don't want to, I don't want to like um sound crazy or put anybody out there, but I do a lot of different voices. So to me, it's just another character.
But at this time, um, did Chris say, "Okay, let's talk paper"? Did you say, Chris, "Okay, let's talk paperwork"? Because this is going on Def Jam. It's a big track. I've already been taken once.
Yeah, well, what happened is, like I said, Chris was doing more of the management. He was more in that with the album, sort of like A&R. I can't even tell you exactly what Chris's role was at that time, but I know it was him who reached out and said, "Hey, because he was working with Elle, and like I said, Chris and I were close, so it was just, oh, let me call her kind of thing." But it was Mona Scott, um, who I dealt with when it came to all the paperwork and stuff. So I dealt with
Okay.
Mona up at Def Jam when it came to all of that. And then, I think I think if it was Chris that was handling that kind of thing, it would have been a little different. But he was out of the loop by the time it got to all of that. And I just remember working with Mona on all of that stuff.
Okay. Now, were you still a Tommy Boy when you did this for L?
Um, Let me see, we did, mm, I can't remember. I can't even remember because I know Tommy Boy they had my album, but my album never got released. And I can't even tell you how long it was before my album was done until Tommy Boy finally was like, well, we're not going to release your album, you
Wow.
know? So I can't even remember like how much time it was in between there. Um, so I may have already been done with Tommy Boy by that time.
Wow. So with a big successful single, um, does Tommy Boy think, uh-oh, we on the back of this hot single, let's try and I'll re-release your album, or let's push you and stuff, or
I have no, I don't think that they thought that. Um, and again, I was um I was a borderline thug. So I was just like, if somebody did me wrong back then, I held a grudge. I'm real different now. But back then, I would hold a grudge. And so if if they had come back and asked me, I might have been like, nah, I'm good, you know.
Okay.
So I couldn't even tell you. I don't think that that ever came up, but again, people hit me up with interviews that I did, and I'm like, damn, I said that. Like I can't even remember I said that. You know, I've had guys hit me up and go, yeah, we used to hang out. I'm like, really? Like I don't remember you.
Wow.
You know. I begin to